My dad was a monument of muscle and muted disappointment. He carved himself from stone, and I was soft clay he couldn't mold. He drank his beer with the reverence of a broken man praying for forgiveness. I watched anime, spun tales of dragons and heroes, and drew worlds he couldn't comprehend. He saw my interests as weakness, a betrayal of some unspoken code. He'd tell me with a sneer that I was soft. Then he discovered hunting. It became his new gospel, a religion of blood and dominion. He hired a guide, a man whose eyes held the chill of a butcher, whose smile promised only pain. At first, it was just noise. The clumsy symphony of a city boy lost in the woods. We scared away squirrels, startled birds, and trampled through the undergrowth like unwelcome ghosts. But the hunter, with his practiced cruelty, taught my father how to make killing clinical, how to field dress, how to gut, how to laugh when the scent of iron turned my stomach inside out. The first time he made me pull the duck open, the smell of warm blood and feathers, the way the guts unspooled, I vomited. It erupted from me, a violent rejection of their twisted sacrament. Laugh aft, they laughed. My father, his face flushed with beer and malice, told the hunter I had the soul of a pussy. The word was a branding iron, searing itself into my flesh. My mother, her eyes averted, told me to man up. That phrase has teeth. It was a command, a condemnation, a weapon honed by years of silent complicity. We ate what we killed. It was the new family motto, the gospel of the gun. You kill, you eat. You don't, you starve. A simple equation for a simple man. My dad liked the phrase because it fit his hands, neat, direct, unforgiving. It was a language he understood, a world where brutality masqueraded as strength. When he shot the deer by the pond, a few weeks later, the antlers caught the last of the sun and looked like something holy, a god of the forest caught in a moment of grace. Then the deer bled and the illusion shattered. The holy became profane, the majestic reduced to meat. My hands shook when he tried to make me help. He called me names all the way home while blood dried on his boots. Each word was a fresh wound, a deeper cut into my already bleeding soul. Last hunt is still pressed into me like a bruise, a constant throbbing reminder of the day my innocence finally died. It clings to me like a shroud, suffocating my every breath. We sat in a blind and watched the pond breathe. A doe came down with her fawn spotted, trusting, the world in their smallness, perfect in their vulnerability. My dad whispered orders like he was giving me the chance to be worthy, an opportunity to earn his love through an act of cold-blooded violence. Shoot the fawn, he said. Tender meat. It'll prove you're not a coward. Each word was a hammer blow, shattering what little remained of my self-respect. I couldn't. I raised the rifle and found the weight of it was a lie. In movies, solid and heavy and full of responsibility. A burden I was not strong enough to bear. I looked through the scope and saw the baby's shoulder blade, the bright, stupid perfection of its spots, a symbol of all that was pure and innocent in the world, about to be extinguished by my hand. My dad leaned in, his breath warm on my ear, and said, "Pull the trigger, pussy." The word landed like a stone, crushing me beneath its weight, suffocating my spirit. I let the rifle fall. The deer ran. I cried. The tears flowed freely, a torrent of grief and shame washing over my broken soul. They called me faggot. Nobody fed me that day. The hatred in their eyes was a more potent poison than any starvation. They didn't feed me the next day either, or the next. 4 days of broth and water, my stomach a gnawing animal. My body was a prison, my hunger a tormentor. My mom watched me with a Bible in her lap and a tightness in her mouth. Her silence was a form of violence, a silent endorsement of my father's cruelty. My dad's rule was absolute. You eat what you kill. A twisted perversion of natural law designed to break my spirit and force me into submission. My hunger started as a hollow, then a roar. It drowned everything else out. Schoolwork, the small secret worlds I loved. My mind was consumed by a single, all-consuming need. I thought about food until food had faces. Distorted, grotesque faces that mocked my suffering and fueled my rage. Hunger warps logic. It taught me new kinds of thinking. How to make a plan, how to wait inside a silence that felt like glass. Patience became a weapon, silence a shield. Hunger isn't only the stomach, it's the space inside you where love used to live. Emptiness, a void that demanded to be filled, no matter the cost. On the drive into the deep woods, I watched him through the rear view like a study. He was a monster, a tyrant, and I was his prey. But even prey can turn. There are 1,000 ways to be brave, I thought. There are 1,000 ways to be cruel that masquerade as strength. My hand shook and then steadied. A cold, unwavering resolve settled over my soul. I raised it, not at a deer, not at a bird, at him. Through the scope, his face was a mask made of all the names he'd given me. The weapon felt like a promise of liberation, of revenge, of silence. "Pull the trigger," I heard him say. "Habit, tutorial." Then the sound broke. The shot echoed through the forest, shattering the silence and sealing my fate. The world closed to a small, acute ring. The second after the shot was very clear. The smell of diesel from the truck, the metallic bloom of hot metal, the damp underbrush scent of crushed leaves. The silence that followed was deafening. A silence that promised a new beginning. They told me I could only eat what I kill. Today, the rule learned its limits. I only get to eat what I kill, and I can only kill what I hate. The irony is heavier than any rifle. The last thing I tasted was not meat. It was silence.